Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on the world of big data. Today, my guest is from DataRPM. We have Sundeep Sanghavi. He is the co-founder and CEO of the company. So, Sundeep, why don't we start at the beginning? What do you guys do?
So just real quick, background. With my third startup, still happily married with two kids.
Yeah.
Don't know how much longer she'll support me, but she does. But our mission really at DataRPM is come through a lot of experiences in analytics for last 15 years. My previous startup, SearchRidge, we were doing data warehousing solutions and on the big data side before the word big data existed. And we failed miserably because every time we thought we had data warehousing, universe, cube, all that figured out, the customer would change the requirement. There was a constant dynamic back and forth. Now, it was a great revenue model for me, but I didn't feel it was delivering a true solution. So our mission at DataRPM is how do you enable every enterprise user, doesn't matter what their background is, they could be a data scientist, they could be a CEO, they could be a janitor, to discover and visualize data in the most natural way possible. And if you look at the analogy, for us, from an analytics perspective, before Google, there was Yahoo and Lycos of the search engine providers, and the way they provided this search was very manually curated. It was a very directory-like structure. So if you're lucky that you find the information in a directory like Yellow Pages, and Google came along and said, "Hey, guess what? You just ask your question, we'll make it available to you." We feel today the BI solutions in the enterprise space today very much feel like a directory structure where you get set canned reports and dashboards. And if you haven't, if you're lucky that you'll find the answer, but if it's not in the original cube of data warehousing, that's not available, and that's what we're trying to disrupt. So the two big problems business problem that we're really trying to solve is we believe that data warehousing is where data goes to die. And no matter what BI tool you use today, you still need to learn the software. So those are the two things we're going after from a technology perspective. And from a relational data warehouse perspective, again, I think in the early 2000s it was great because it was a single data source and you could actually carry their data. But as we're starting to get into the world of cloud and multiple infrastructure of data and log machines and social media, it really, really is difficult to complex the data model around that. It takes way too long, and it's very difficult to change, and it's not scalable, or it's too expensive to scale. So then came along Hadoop, and Hadoop is great at what it does, but at the end of the day, it's extremely difficult to get the data out, right? So in the data warehouse, it's difficult to get the data in, and in the world of Hadoop, getting the data out still remains a big challenge because it's a very complex to query it. You need to have engineers do it, and it's in batch processing mode. So what we have done over the last 18 months is we've invented a technology called computational search graph, which uses algorithms to understand the data, identifies the entities and relationships and dependencies from the data, and creates a data modeling on the fly. And once we get the data modeling, we don't care what sources it comes from. We drop it into a binary inverted search index, and we enable it through a natural language interface on the front end side. So you never have to learn a software. So we're taking those two big problems in the analytics world today and solving it both using machines and NLP on the back end and the front end. All right. So again, computational search graph is what we're filing a patent on, which gives a Google-like search technology and a Siri-like voice interface on top of any data, any size. Under the hood, it's a SaaS-based solution, so it could be on cloud, private cloud, or on-premises as well. There's a full deployment workflow and monitoring for the entire solution. Basically, we hook into the data sources across the board and do a data modeling graph out of that data set, drop it into the search index, and build out the computational search analytics on top of that. So as you have a lot of the in-memory solution, we're a just-in-time memory solution using a software versus a hardware. So you can scale horizontally in a very, very rapid manner. We're using Stanford NLP on top of that to do the query understanding and entity mapping to give you the natural language interface. In a short time frame, we'll be able to do pretty good. We're angel backed, so venture backed, Gotten some decent coverage from Forbes, Washington Business Journal, VentureWire, VentureBeat, GigaOM, as a bootstrap startup, so it's pretty good. Decent validation in the marketplace. We went alpha in August last year, June in beta this year, and got paying clients now and growing at a very, very fast pace. Most of our customers use our solution. The sweet spot that we're finding in the use case world is that when they have multiple data sources, large scale of data, we're a great fit because customers had existing solutions and they weren't able to get the data modeling done. And then if they even got the data modeling done, they weren't able to analyze the data. And we're able to do it in a very, very rapid fashion because we're using machines versus humans. And we're able to do it at 1/10 of the cost because it's not taking that much time in terms of total cost of ownership. Avectra, on the other hand, doesn't have a big scale data, but what it has is it has a dynamic data modeling that's going on. Every one of the customers they implement is allowed to design their own campaigns, which creates new objects, new data models in their system. They have business objects, but business objects, as you know, works on a data warehousing technology using the universes, and if they're predefined, you can't take the dynamic objects. So again, that's where we really shine. Came in less than 30 days, fully embedded into their product, and now they're able to, every time the customer sets up a new project, they get access to the data right away. So, evolution beyond revolution. So again, 80s were the spreadsheets, and they're still predominantly used because the rest of the innovations are still require some kind of software learning. 90s was the database era. In 2010, you had the whole data warehousing era. And then the last few years, you've heard a lot about visualization software. According to Gartner, 70% of all BI analytics, whether it's internal, off the shelf, will have some kind of natural language and spoken word capabilities. So we feel we have a good advantage there. So again, our advantage, we see competition as Microsoft Power BI, Neutrino BI, and then in terms of traditional BI, we feel we are very, very much ahead. We have the natural language component. We have the computational search graph component. We can scale for big data. We can be fully embedded into any solutions. It's very, very easy to integrate us versus the traditional BI world. And easy maintenance is very easy as well. I'm the janitor. I keep the lights on. Ruben and Gautam are the brain behind the child. Ruben came from Yahoo search engine team. Gautam came from IBM team. Both of them have done startups before. They founded companies before. So good team of people. Building a phenomenal product. A very good board of directors and advisors that continue to keep us growing. Again, in summary, we're the only natural analytics provider through a computational graph search technology. Available fully, on the cloud, private cloud, on premises. We'll scale for any data, small or big. Good team and 100% referenceable customers.
Well, great, Sundeep. A quick question. When you guys run that model, what happens when that data set changes? If it's dynamic, do you have to rerun your data model, or does it still apply?
It still applies. So basically, what happens is that every time, every time the data modeling graph is a living document, it's literally like a web page. Every time that anything happens to your data sources, it's relearning what's going on with the data modeling graph. Mm-hmm. And then we'll grab any data and drop it into the search index. The computational search analytics talks to the data model graph saying, hey, has anything changed today? If not, we'll continue to provide what we're providing.
So it doesn't sound like this is a very disruptive way to do things. You look like you're a layer on top. Is that an accurate description?
So, the way we're disrupting the market today is from a single stack solution, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at other solutions today, somebody will have to use something else for visualization, something else for NLP, and because we're using a search index versus your traditional data warehousing or relational data models or NoSQL data models, you still are very much tied down to that time, how long it takes from getting the data in to actually making decisions. It's a very, very long cycle. Yeah. And we're able to shorten that cycle in a very rapid manner. And as far as we understand, from a disruption perspective, we don't know anybody who could figure out the data modeling using machines in an instant manner and then providing a natural language interface on top.
Yeah. Yeah, and then how do you make your money? Are you doing a license per core, per query? How does it work?
Sure. So we charge by nodes. So uh, how many servers you've ordered up. So it's really size of data
Yeah.
consumption.
Well, hey, can we take a look and see how it works?
Sure, absolutely. Right. So basically, this is our zero config screen. So basically, what you have from the setting world is a bunch of data coming in um, from different. So what we do is we ask data three things. Data, are you date and time? Data, are you a measure? Or data, are you a dimension?
Hmm.
And based on that, it drops into these three different what we call schemas, and then we apply algorithms for dimensions, measures, and date and time that are pre-configured, pre-built. For example, average, monthly, uh, quarterly, yearly, min, max in the world of measures, bucketing and binning and dimensions. So all that happens on a real-time basis, grabs that information, and provides you a zero config screen for you to look at this information in the same three schema. So up top you here see date and time, left hand side you see measures, and bottom you see all the dimensions. So this is basically daily deal kind of information. So Living Socials, the Groupons, they have merchant customers, they have end customers. They wanted to see what campaigns they should work on for the next year, and they took 5 different sources and matched it together to get to this zero config screen. So now I can look at revenue, and I could look at margin. I'll look at the same axis or different axis. Then I can say, okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering what location is driving my margin.
Well, Sandeep, was some of this in relational databases, and some of it was it unstructured, or what's the nature of
Yeah.
this
So
mix?
I got 5 sources, 2 spreadsheets,
Uh-huh.
one MySQL database, Salesforce,
Yeah.
and their ERP system.
Okay.
So as you see here, Atlanta is the highest margin. I'm starting to build filters out. Then I could say, okay, well, which age group is driving that? So it's like 65 and plus. That's interesting. I'm wondering what these people are buying. Well, it's females, and what are they buying? And they are buying gourmet products, right? I'm able to get to this information in a very, very fast manner without having to worry about what are the relationship, what tables are available to me. I can visualize that data. But again, we believe that the next millennial generation, all they're used to is a Google search bar. They want to ask questions and they want to get answers. So for the first time ever, I could just say, okay, I want to know my revenue in 2011. I want to know by location. Right? I could ask that question and it gives me a visualized answer. Now, what's powerful is that when I ask for revenue, it says, hey, by the way, there's something called site revenue and merchant revenue. Here, we're showing you site revenue. If you want to see merchant revenue, that's also available as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yeah.
it does suggestive analytics on top of that. Right?
So I could see someone like in a board meeting asking for this information and getting it out in real time rather than going generating a report a few days later.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
What happens today, so one of our customers, 3 Pillar Global, they used to have these board meetings, and literally the CEO was jumping around asking the data monkey saying, hey, well, no, the board wants to understand how Detroit is broken up by different dimensions, right?
Sure.
Well, if that wasn't pre-canned, pre-defined, pre-available, you had to go to the data monkeys or the IT team and get that information.
Yeah.
And every time I ask a question, so I can continue my train of thoughts here, it uses that information, goes back to our search index, and says, hey, here are all the information that here asked. Tell me what are the associated fields with this particular question. And now that is available to me on a complete drill down.
Yeah.
Huge disruption from where the industry sits today is that everything has to be predefined, preset, pre-configured. Now you're saying, hey, I don't know what my customer is going to ask, but sure enough, when they ask, I'll make it available to them, right? I could continue my training size. I could say, okay, split by gender.
I mean, this is the way Google has trained us to do search, right? We don't enter Boolean things in queries. We ask a question just like you are there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you ask, Rich, by location, by deal type. That system's going to say, hey, that's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what rich really means, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's say, hey, we're unable to recognize about that. Now I could map this real time. So my internet is slow. We've been having outages all week with the storm here.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I could say every time we say rich in our world, that means a measure, and
Yes.
we mean it's he's our
Oh, I see.
he's our merchant revenue guy.
So you're able to define that parameter.
Exactly. So now this could be done at the admin level because you don't want everybody doing it, or you could do it at the user level, and the user could say, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is what I use as a lingo," or you could do it at the company level. Really up to you. But now that information is available to me, and I could change the way it looks and feels. So all the bells and whistles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the beauty of this natural language is that now you have ability to save this as a report, and that's all it takes to build a report in our system. Now, you do have availability because, people that are smarter than I am are always going to say, well, you know what? We want to do complex reporting and all that good stuff. So we're not SaaS, we're not SPSS,
Yes.
we're not that complex, but we do give you that, the middle there where if you want to do advanced configurations and, derived measures and calculations, you have the traditional UI that you can still do it at.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so, Tableaus, the ClickViews of the world, they all have this drag and drop interface. Now that's available to you. And I can do some advanced setting on it, and I can do, link reports, I can do trimming, I can do multiple measures, and all that good stuff right on here, right? But again, we believe that people just want to ask questions first to start out with, and then they really want to get complex once they do that. We also make this entire experience that I just showed you fully embeddable.
Mm-hmm.
So I could take this entire report, drop it into any existing app that I have within the organization, or a mobile app with the exact same experience that I just showed you. Interactively. It's not canned. It's not static HTML. It's an interactive analytics right in front of you, fully embedded into your app.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had a campaign or something that was going on real time, you could get that information out to the field where they might be able to do something with the information, and very interesting.
So, real cool way that Avectra is using this is Avectra is a CRM for the non-for-profit organizations. So they do a lot of these fundraisings and donor DNA, right? So they use an analytics solution and say, okay, our goal is, I'm making numbers up, $50,000 for this fundraiser, and here's what we're getting in transactional basis on a regular basis. Where are we today? Where are we today? Where are we today? Right? So now you can have real time as you're, building out the campaigns. You can see a real time on what's going on. And then you also have, linked reports as well. Dashboards as well. So I could build an entire, multiple reports, and I could say, I'm really interested in this. This will dynamically, impact the sub-drill reports that you have.
So what kind of capabilities are your customers asking for?
Sure. So the next thing that we're doing, and I could show you a teaser on it, which we think is really, really fascinating, is on the prediction side, right? So now you told me everything you can use in a natural language, what's in my system, right? But let's take it one step further. Can you tell me, 2 years out now, what it's going to look like? So we're working with the customer on what their churn will look like, what their raise will look like, what their revenue will look like, what their donor contribution look like, what will their donor demographics will look like, right? So that's where we see the future, right? Is that now you've done a good job on giving us, a very, very simple interface without having to do crazy data modeling and dynamically allow us to ask questions and get the data. But now, can you predict?
Right. So they could see that a certain population is becoming more important to what they're doing, and they can start building strategies.
Focus on that.
Well, I guess kind of a wrap up here. Questions. How easy is it to kick the tires on this? Do you have to go in and install the whole thing, and or is there some kind of pilot that you can?
Sure. No, so it's fully web-based. We could give you, we could start you off with the kind of data that we have, and let you kick the tires.
Well, this is fascinating stuff, and I just love that you use that natural language because my Boolean's pretty rusty.
So, one of the challenges that we have now is that this could apply to anything, right? So one of the things that we want to do in 2014 is that, as you saw our slide where, we got clients pretty much in lots of different verticals, right? Based on your experience of what you're seeing in the marketplace, would you advise and guide, saying, hey, Suze, and if I look at your go-to-market strategy, you scale for big data. You sit, we sit on top of Hadoop. We sit on top of any relational data model. We sit on top of HBase and MongoDB as well to provide that scale. And the largest customer we have is processing 28 terabytes a day with the solution. So we can scale up, and the smallest we have is processing 16,000 records. So we can scale down as well. What would you recommend based on what you're seeing in the marketplace? Is there a vertical that you would focus on? Is there a bigger business problem that you would focus on?
To me, I mean, it's what's going on in healthcare, and I see some of that on your slide here, right? Okay. Because, boy, the rules are changing every minute, right, from Obama and everything else. And, geez, how do you react to that? And what people are doing. I'm struggling with what to buy for healthcare myself right now, because suddenly I have the option of keeping what I had for a year, as an example.
Yep, all these, multiple options available. Interesting. Okay.
The other thing that comes to mind here is fraud detection, and I don't know if you have any use cases there, but the ability to see this stuff and do natural language and look for those relationships. Things like organized crime are doing a lot of things that are very hard to detect because their relationships to each other, these criminals, are not clear, right? So it's hard to find the pattern. So something like this might, I could see as being very valuable.
So 2 use cases on that. One is, it's a 3-letter agency. It had to be an on-prem solution for them. And what they did is, it's really cool because I have some telecom background for about five plus years in the industry, and I didn't think of this, and this is what the kind of things I think of, is they gave us 642 terabytes of data on their premises, and they said, hey, all we want to understand is, are there similar travel pattern recognition between our profile list? We can't tell you who they are, what they are. We'll just tell you this is their travel pattern. Go find similar travel patterns for us. Right? So that was a very, very cool use case, and I'm like, oh my God, I came from a telecom background. Why did I think of this idea, right? Because it makes a lot of sense. People are dropping all kinds of information on the internet, on the phones, on the social medias to give you that sort of travel pattern recognition analysis and how that ties to the other world. When you mentioned fraud, the use case of transaction network services is exactly that. They have basically, they're the enablers of roaming for all the carriers throughout the globe. So when you roam, when you go from one country to another country, they're the authentication providers. So obviously on the front end, they want to make sure that there's no fraud. So what they're using our solution for is identifying if somebody's got a bunch of SIM boxes stored in a single location and trying to pump traffic through that, then they know it's fraud. Right now it takes them 15 to 16 minutes. By that time, thousands of dollars have been rung up already, and it's hard to shut them down. So we did a use case, 38 seconds, we're able to give them the visualization saying, hey, this 9 out of 10, this is going to be a fraud case right here. So yeah, absolutely. Fraud is one area that we're seeing, even in healthcare, same issues, right? There's a lot of fraud and abuse that going on in that world as well.
You're getting angel funded primarily now. What's the next step? Do you need more money to develop new features, or go out and go to market, or what's the plan?
So we just finished off 800K angel round. CIT Gap as an institution, 20K Industry is behind it as well. Which is good. Right now our focus is really figure out a go-to-market strategy, because we want to be very, very focused when we do go raise Series A. We've started the cycles based on the inbound interest from the angel raise. We're talking about 11 parties that are interested, and we're doing hey, we'll keep you up to date on a monthly basis what's going on with us, and see where things go. So my goal is between now and next 30 days to really have a very concrete go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, because it seems like there's ripe opportunity for you here for partners, right? People that would specialize in, say, case healthcare fraud or something that need a tool like you're offering. And they've already got those customers engaged.
Yeah, they have the domain expertise. They have the customers. Yes. All I want to do is be embedded and get out of their way. Let them do what they do best.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Well, hey, I want to thank you for sharing this with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time and your feedback.
Okay, folks, that's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on the world of big data.